They say hip-hop thrives on larger-than-life stories. Diamond-dripping legends, city-sized egos, and comeback arcs that feel scripted for Hollywood. Yet every so often, a headline crashes through the noise that even the most gossip-hungry fan scrolls twice just to be sure they read it right. On June 19, 2025, a federal complaint hit the Southern District of New York, claiming that Joseph Fat Joe Cartagena, the jovial Bronx storyteller who gave us Lean Back, secretly presided over a 15-year ring of coercion, fraud, and outright human trafficking. The paperwork stretches 157 pages, demands $20 million in damages, and reads like a crime novel you'd put down because the villain feels too cartoonishly cruel. Except the alleged victim says he lived every page. His name is Terrance Dixon, Fat Joe's onstage hype man, road life problem solver, and, if you take the filing at face value, the man who saw the empire from its darkest corner. A decade and a half ago, Dixon was the voice you barely noticed between verses, the one screaming, "Make some noise," before the beat dropped. Today, his voice echoes from a courthouse, amplified by accusations that threaten to sink a 54-year-old rap titan and rattle an industry already shaken by the Diddy raids earlier this spring. To understand why this suit lands like a grenade, you need to rewind to 2005, when a wide-eyed Bronx-bred performer named Dixon hustled his way into Terror Squad rehearsals. Fat Joe, fresh off his crossover hit What's Love, allegedly took the kid under his wing, then under his thumb. Over the next 16 years, Dixon claims he became far more than a glorified hype machine. He wrote hooks, polished ad-libs, nursed technical glitches backstage, ran security when local promoters got sketchy, and even lugged road cases because, as he puts it, saying no was never an option. Picture a human Swiss Army knife who kept the show roaring while the spotlight stayed glued to the main man. The good times, Dixon recalls, came with promises. Royalty splits on tracks, per diem bumps when tour jumped, a chance to release his own music under the Squad banner. But according to the lawsuit, those promises vaporized the moment Dixon asked for paperwork. Instead, he says, Fat Joe devised a compensation scheme straight out of a mafia handbook. Small weekly cash advances, vague assurances that the next album would make it worth his while, and a constant reminder that stepping out of line meant exile in whatever foreign city the tour bus stopped next. The complaint even alleges moments when Joe confiscated Dixon's passport mid-tour, leaving him stranded until he fell back in line. That exploitation narrative would be ugly enough on its own, but page 32 of the filing detonates a more disturbing bombshell. Dixon alleges that Joe forced him into more than 4,000 inappropriate acts, often recorded, occasionally live-streamed to inner circle members, under threats that refusal would cost him both his job and safe passage home. The document paints a ritualistic picture. Groupies delivered to hotel suites. Dixon ordered to set the tone, Joe watching like a director behind a camera phone. If you believe the text, the acts weren't kink between consenting adults. They were leverage, humiliation, and psychological shackles. Worse still, 3 anonymous witnesses, identified only as Minor Doe 1, 2, and 3, allege they were under 18 when Fat Joe first paid for their flights, lodging, and silence. Dixon claims he had no choice but to facilitate some of those trips, and the suit accuses Joe of giving lavish gifts, sneakers, iPhones, concert wristbands, to keep the girls quiet. For longtime fans who tuned in for feel-good anthems, the idea that their hero might be a traveling predator feels surreal. Joe's lawyers call that notion complete fabrication. But public opinion on social media turned volatile within hours. Whole timelines split between #StandWithDixon and #FabricatedFacts. Enter attorney Tyrone Blackburn, the man who dragged Sean Diddy Combs into federal court earlier this year, and who now describes Fat Joe as Diddy minus the Tussie. Translation, same alleged blueprint of intimidation and exploitation, minus the glitz of a billion-dollar vodka empire. Blackburn swears he holds encrypted phone footage, WhatsApp logs, and explicit NDAs signed by crew members who allegedly witnessed the abuse. Joe's camp fires back that Blackburn is a headline hunter stacking shock value because that's cheaper than real evidence. Somewhere between those extremes sits a 157-page narrative that will soon face the sterilizing light of discovery. Fat Joe, never shy with a microphone, issued his own missive less than 4 hours after news broke. In a statement drafted alongside high-powered litigator Joe Tacopina, He calls Dixon's claims a desperate act of retaliation and reminds press that in April he sued Dixon for extortion, slander, and a grab bag of other charges after Dixon publicly labeled him a pedophile. Joe insists this new lawsuit is nothing more than a shakedown, pure and simple. Time to sabotage his summer festival run and push him into a settlement he calls extortion money. He ends the statement with a phrase fans know by heart. Yesterday's price is not today's price. The irony, according to Twitter wits, is that yesterday's price was apparently $20 million. If you followed Joe's career, you know this isn't his for the courthouse. Back in 2013, he spent 4 months in federal lockup for dodging more than $1 million in taxes, a stint he later described as humbling. Critics now ask if that humility was only surface deep. Dixon's filing digs up those tax records and argues they reveal a pattern. When money's on the line, Joe allegedly bends laws, friends, and morality alike, always assuming charisma will clean up the fallout. Financial fog forms another pillar of the complaint. Dixon claims he co-wrote hooks on records like the multi-platinum anthem All the Way Up, only to watch streaming checks roll into shell companies he couldn't access. He says he was iced out of BMI registrations, left off liner notes, and blocked from tour settlement meetings. The suit even names Rock Nation, Joe's current management home, as complicit, alleging execs turned a blind eye whenever Dixon raised concerns because the Terror Squad frontman was still moving tickets. Rock Nation hasn't commented publicly, but the silence is already costing them. Brand watchers point out that Joe disappeared from the label's Instagram header within 12 hours of the filing. Beyond reputational damage, the legal stakes could escalate fast. Several paragraphs in Dixon's suit invoke the Trafficking Victims Protection Act and allude to a potential RICO angle. The same nuclear option prosecutors weighed in the Diddy investigations. At 3 minor witnesses, international travel across more than a dozen jurisdictions, and an alleged network of enforcers with nicknames like Pistol Pete and JB. And you have a mixtape of federal nightmares. One entertainment lawyer tweeted, "If even half of this is verified, the feds will elbow their way in before Thanksgiving." Still, lawsuits live or die on evidence, not shock value. Joe's team claims they can produce tour itineraries showing Dixon booked his own outbound flights, text threads where Dixon gushes about loyal big bro, and affidavits from employees who say the hype man was a willing participant in adult fun, not a captive. Blackburn maintains the real receipts sit in encrypted cloud drives, hidden camera files Dixon allegedly uploaded in 2021, in case something ever happened to me. The stage is set for a discovery phase that could spill more tea than a reality TV reunion. Meanwhile, fans and sponsors are hedging bets. Sprite quietly unpinned a promo featuring Joe from its X account. A sneaker collab rumored for fall now sits in limbo. Podcast partners are ghosting email threads. And inside hip-hop commentary circles, a new debate rages. How do you cheer a crowd to lean back when the story behind the beat might involve women who could barely lean into high school desks? Cynics say, outrage will fade once another scandal grabs the TL. Activists argue this is the reckoning the culture keeps delaying. Industry insiders whisper that if prosecutors smell blood, they'll track wire transfers, hotel ledgers, and passport stamps. Those details, unlike bruised feelings, don't change under oath. The real suspense isn't just whether Joe is guilty. It's whether the machine that made him rich will protect itself or finally prioritize accountability. Remember, Dixon isn't asking for hush money now. He's asking for open court depositions and a jury trial. That alone separates this saga from the classic settle and NDAs we're used to. Timelines move quick in federal court. Judge Miriam Sanchez has already set an August 15th scheduling conference. Lawyers will haggle over protective orders, and the first trove of discovery, phone dumps, contract drafts, backstage pass logs, could hit Pacer by Halloween. That means by the time you're carving pumpkins, we might be reading text messages that either vindicate or vaporize a rap icon. But beyond court dates lies a quieter question. What happens to the hype man who called out the king? Dixon, now 38, says he lives paycheck to paycheck, ghostwriting for indie acts while dodging online death threats from enraged fans. He insists the lawsuit isn't about a payday. It's about telling the truth before someone else becomes collateral damage. Fat Joe counters that the so-called victim is a disgruntled employee who squandered advances on luxury sneakers and is bitter he never became a headliner. Strip away the glitter and you confront an eternal story. powerful artist versus invisible worker. Whether you believe Dixon or Joe, the lawsuit forces rap culture to inspect its own backstage. The dark corridors where deals are verbal, loyalty is currency, and the line between entourage and indentured servant blurs after midnight flights. Maybe the case collapses under scrutiny. Maybe it cracks open a vault of secrets bigger than Terror Squad itself. Either path rewrites a chapter of hip-hop history. So where do we go from here? In 60 days, discovery begins. In 9 months, the earliest trial window opens. Between those milestones, expect podcasts dissecting every line item, think pieces comparing Joe to Diddy, and at least one tell-all from someone who once fetched towels in a VIP green room. For veterans who watch the genre claw from block parties to boardrooms, the moment feels both terrifying and overdue. And that brings us to you. Yes, you with the earbuds and the scrolling thumb. Did Terrance Dixon just expose the next hip-hop empire built on fear, or did he unleash the most ambitious cash grab since internet sleuths tried to cancel Drake? Slide into the comments and tell us, is Joe a misunderstood hustler or a predator hiding behind platinum plaques? Tap like if you demand receipts, hit for the next twist, and smash that notification bell because the next deposition leak might drop before this video finishes its first million views. Whatever the verdict, remember, every beat has a backstory, and sometimes the rhythm hits darker than the bass line.